Hey, and welcome to a quick update video about my Bane Occultist League Starter in 3.18. So since I left off, I've made several upgrades to my build, and at this point I would say that my Bane DPS is very close to being as min-maxed as I would like it to be. I'm currently sitting, I believe, either 3rd or 4th on the top DPS on PoE Ninja. I think most of the people above me are using a different build. They're doing like low life with Bane being their main skill, not using Essence Drain, and it's a bit of a different setup. You might want to look into that if that's something that interests you. The upgrades that I made to my build have been quite significant, mostly involving getting as much plus level to gems as possible, while also getting a lot of increased chaos damage on my gear, such as my Stygian Vice being an incredibly good Stygian Vice with the tier 1 chaos damage as well as the life and percent life. So my DPS is about as good as I think it's going to get with the amount of investment that I put into it. And the sad reality is that Bane and Essence Drain, combined with all the other things that it does like Wither and Blight, it just doesn't seem to be good enough to do high tier bossing comfortably. This is unfortunate because the skill itself and the playstyle is very comfortable, but the DPS just isn't there. Cirrus is still a pain in the ass. Even Shaper is kind of a pain in the ass, which is really surprising because Shaper is usually a pushover. And Searing Exarch, Eater of the Worlds, those are both kind of long fights. And the Feared just was so difficult, I was not able to complete it. This is the first time I have ever failed the Feared. I have never in my history of this game lost all 6 portals to the Feared. So that was kind of a red flag for me. You know, I kind of knew that was going to happen going into it, but when that actually did happen, it was kind of a red flag that like maybe this build is just not going to be good enough to boss. But that's okay because it's still S tier for clearing maps. It's still one of the most quality of life, one of the most like convenient skills to use. Just a big AoE where everything just pops. I mean, it's a really great, really great build for this league, especially. It deals with Arch Nemesis mods very well, and for that reason, I think people are realizing that Bane is so good for Arch Nemesis mods. It does seem to be that a lot of the in-game gear for Bane has gone up in price significantly. My staff looks to be about 3 or 4 times as expensive as when I purchased it. The belt that I made is also kind of going up in price. A lot of the gems have gone up in price. It does seem to be that people are starting to catch on that Bane is really good for this league. So I'm going to keep this build as my map clear, and I'm going to swap over to a Seismic Trap Exsanguinate Trapper Saboteur, which I've already leveled up. It's level 84 right now. So I'm going to have like a bosser and a clearer, and Bane's going to be my clearer. So that's the basic breakdown of the progress. In a quick summary, I've kind of just realized that I hit a wall that is going to require, first of all, I know it's going to require a lot of more money to get Bane to a point where I can comfortably kill the in-game bosses. But with that being said, I'm still not even sure if it could even get there to begin with. Even if you get the most perfect gear, I just don't know if this skill has enough DPS to be able to do something like, Uber Cirrus comfortably, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a build that can do those bosses pretty efficiently, pretty consistently, and I just don't think Bane is going to be that build, unfortunately. However, if you would like to get your DPS to a point where you can comfortably clear as juiced as possible maps, like I can do, you're going to want to prioritize getting plus level to gems, so you're going to want to get that +5 staff, and you're going to want to get a Stygian Vice that has 30% chaos damage, as well as get your Awakened Gems in there, get yourself some good Cluster Jewels, some good notables. One of my favorite notables, for example, is Dark Ideation, because this build tends to have a lot of max mana, so we end up getting, right now I'm getting 46% chaos damage, which is really nice. And aside from that, I got myself a Megalomaniac that also has Misery Everlasting. And this is really great because Despair is one of our strongest DPS curses. Misery Everlasting actually increases the reduction of chaos resistance to I think like 47%, which is huge. And it increases the chaos damage they take over time by all the way up to like 57%, which is amazing. So Misery Everlasting, I think, is one of the best DPS notables that you can get. However, it does not normally spawn on the Chaos Damage medium cluster, so you're going to need to get that on a different cluster, which I think the easiest way to do that is just getting yourself a Megalomaniac. So that's basically it when it comes to pushing the DPS to the point where I have. Aside from, you know, obvious things like a Watcher's Eye that has the 22% crit multi, and then just other good jewels. There's not really much else that goes into it. So that's about it for Bane. And now I'm going to quickly go into my Atlas passive tree strategy. Basically, my strategy is very simple. I am not worrying about speedrunning maps. I am simply doing the content that I enjoy. I don't really care about, you know, there's a lot of things that a lot of people will suggest you do content that benefits from running maps like as quickly as possible so you can get all those like extra strong boxes, extra essences as many times as possible. But I am actually prioritizing content that I think is interesting. And this league I'm doing Expedition because I've never done it before, and so far it has proved to be incredibly profitable. I haven't gotten a Mage Blood from Gwenin or nothing, but 2-gen is amazing, and Rog is also Pog, you know, as they say. So both of those guys are giving me some really good profit, and I think it's fun. I think it's just a fun thing to do. I'm also doing Blight because I really like Blight. I always have. I've gotten some great profit from that so far. And this league, it seems that oils are actually quite expensive. Probably because people are not doing Blight because they're scared of the Arch Nemesis modifiers. But if you ask me, it kind of feels about the same. I don't really think that Blight is really that much more difficult. With that being said, my build is incredibly good for Blight, so I might just be biased. But there's another reason why I'm doing Blight and Expedition. It's not just because they're interesting and I think they're fun. It's also because they are really, really good for Sentinel. I was reading Reddit and people were saying like, Blight is probably going to be the easiest way to get as many monsters on screen at once, so you can get that big pandemonium, you know, it shoots every monster on the screen. Blight's going to be one of the best ways to do that, and that's true. Blight can get hundreds of monsters on the screen at once. People are giving a rebuttal to that strategy by saying, well, you know, Blight monsters don't usually drop very good items, and that's true, they really don't. However, that doesn't really matter because the great thing about the Sentinels is that they add rewards to the monsters, and that's where the profit comes in. Because it doesn't matter if the Blight monsters don't drop anything, when you force them to drop things, that's when you get the big loot explosions. The same thing can be said about Expedition. You get really, really good loot explosions from each monster pack whenever you beef it with a Sentinel. However, it's really dangerous, and that's another pro for Blight. The great thing about Blight is that you can hit every monster on the screen, and as long as you're kind of like staying back away from them, they won't even attack you because they're on rails. So then you can just kill them with whatever method you have to kill them. Mine is super easy. I literally just cast once and they all blow up. So that's great. And that's really it. I'm also doing Ritual because I like Ritual. I think Ritual's fun. For the remainder of the video, I'm just going to show you a bunch of really crazy loot explosions that I've recorded with Blight. That's just a quick update for my build and how this league's going. I am loving it overall, having a fucking blast. I think this league mechanic is my favorite league mechanic of all time. Yep, that's about it. Thanks for watching.
No balls.
Wahoo! Hello. Hello.
No balls.
Hey, Essences, Michael here.
Wahoo!
No balls.
Wahoo!